Hi friends, today I'm sharing a layout that I created using the lovely ornament wreath cut file from Paige Taylor Evans. I was delighted to guest design for her in the run up to Christmas, and this was one of the 25 free cut files that she shared. I will link up her Happy Scrappy Facebook group in the description box below so that you can download it and create with this lovely cut file too. I've used Paige's lovely Christmas Sugar Plum Wishes collection for this layout. It is full of a rainbow of colours, which is my absolute favourite. That is something that I love about Paige's collections. There's always a rainbow of colour, which suits me down to the ground because, as you may know, I do tend to gravitate towards a rainbow layout. I purchased the Sugar Plum Wishes paper pad, which includes 2 of each of the pattern papers from the collection. So it's a lovely way to get a little bit of all of them. And I've started off with this lovely advent page with numbers 1 to 25. And I've picked out one of the little yellow squares to add some yellow to my wreath. There isn't a pattern paper that is solely yellow, so I wanted to include some yellow, so I've used that little bit and it worked perfectly on that tiny ornament. And I'm just going to work my way through the various different pattern papers until I've backed all the cut files. To back the cut files, I draw around the center of each ornament, and then when I cut out the shape, I don't cut directly on the line. I leave a couple of millimeters border all the way around, just so that there's a lip that I can glue onto the back of the cut file. So I slowly work my way through a variety of the different pattern papers until I've got a lovely rainbow sequence going all the way around. I did make a small mistake with the greeny tartan pattern paper over there where my thumb is. It should have been one ornament up. I'd got the order slightly mixed up, but it works fine, so I wasn't going to let it bother me, and I just carried on. Now, I wanted to add a little bit of gold stitching to the top of each ornament, so I used my pokey tool to poke some holes into the ornament and then use some gold embroidery thread to just do a back stitch around each of the tops of those. It's quite delicate work. You need to make sure you're using quite a thin needle. I did rip my cardstock in a few places and then had to delicately glue it back together. So I think if I were to do it again, I'd probably maybe just use 3 strands of the embroidery thread and definitely a thinner needle. Now it's time to get my ornament wreath stuck down. So I'm using some craft foam and I'm adding some of my tape runner onto it so it sticks immediately, but just for longevity so that it stays stuck, I'm adding a little bit of wet glue as well. So I do that to both sides, the side that's sticking on the ornament, and then now the side that's going to be sticking down onto the white cardstock in the background. Now my background cardstock is Vicky Bouton's mixed media cardstock because I am going to be adding a rainbow of color behind that wreath, and I want it to kind of sit on top of the cardstock so that I can mix it and blend it, but more of that in a little bit. So right now I've brought out another rainbow of color in sequins this time, and I'm just going to be embellishing each of the ornaments with a whole bunch of sparkles. So I love these sequins, and they come in all different sizes, so there's 3 different sizes in all the different colorways, and I love the visual texture that gives and the interest. So I'm mixing a lighter pink and then a more shocking pink, and just kind of embellishing one side of each of the ornaments and then adding 2 or 3 individual sequins to the other side of the ornament. Almost like twinkling lights are catching the ornaments and giving them a bit of sparkle. If you keep watching, you'll see in the next ornament that I embellish, I've zoomed it in a little bit, so it's a little bit easier to see how I've added the sequins and the sparkles.
It's cold outside, but the fire keeps us warm. We can spend the night underneath the mistletoe, and I've gotten you a present that I put under the tree. Tomorrow it is Christmas, the first for you and me. The snow is falling down and the storm is on its way, but as long as you're around, everything will be okay. 'Cause all I wanna do is spend this holiday with you. Tomorrow it is Christmas, the first for me and you.
And here you can see all the ornaments finished with their lovely sparkles added in, and I absolutely love the touch of sparkle. It really just, it's a feast for my eyes. I hope it is for yours too. I have my very own rainbow ornament wreath that I bring out every Christmas. It was a gift from a lovely friend, and this paper version really makes me think of it, and it's one of my favorite decorations to bring out every Christmas. Now it's time to add a little bit of colour to the background. Now remember, if you're going to be recreating something like this, either use some foundations paper or mixed media cardstock, or if you're going to just use regular cardstock, don't forget to put some gesso over the top of it, just to allow your paints to move freely without being immediately absorbed by the cardstock. So you definitely want to be having a mixed media type of cardstock so that the paint sits on the top and allows you to work it and move it around and mix the colours. So I've got out a selection of beautiful watercolours. These are handmade by a small business here in the UK called Campabella. I will link that up in the description box below for you. But I've managed to collect a lovely selection, a rainbow selection of colours. Some are shimmery, some are glittery, and they really are beautiful. And I've got a colour for each one of these ornaments. So I'm just gently working around the ornaments. They are raised up with foam, so I can kind of slot the paintbrush in underneath each of those ornaments just so that it looks like the colours bleeding out from underneath. And I'm just going to work my way through the rainbow, making sure that the colours blend together. If I'm finding that the colours aren't moving too much, then I just add a bit more water to my paintbrush and go in with some water, and it helps the colours move and mix together a bit more. Now you can't see here while I'm busy doing the painting, but you'll see at the end when I show you a close-up. These colours are so shimmery and they just add such a beautiful sparkle and extra dimension to the page, and that is the one thing that I absolutely love about Campabella watercolours, is they really are so shimmery and beautiful. So very worth collecting. I'm working my way around the outside of the wreath, but then I will go in and add colour to the inside of the wreath as well. Originally I'd thought just to do the outside, but it felt like something was missing, so I then made sure that there was colour all around all the ornaments, and I was much happier with how that looked.
This moment to have you for myself in a cabin out of nowhere, just us and no one else. I've decorated everything till we're perfect for this week. Tomorrow it is Christmas, the first for you and me. Another year went by, but the difference this time is that ever since July, I've been happier than I have ever been. It's safe to say that my love for you is true. Tomorrow it is Christmas, the first for me and you. I've longed for this moment to have you for myself in a cabin out of nowhere, just us and no one else.
And here it's done, and you can see some of that gorgeous shimmer just catching the light there, and I love that extra detail that it adds. So you've got the shimmer of the watercolours and the sequins. All those lovely colours and sparkle really make me happy. I think I auditioned nearly every single sheet of pattern paper from the Sugar Plum Wishes collection to be my backing paper for this photo, but I finally settled on this one. I love the pattern, and the colour worked really nicely with the ornament wreath and still let all those lovely colours shine individually, so it wasn't too obtrusive. And you'll see I'm cutting away some of that photo because I need to tuck it in behind that wreath. However, it did such a good job of sticking the wreath down that it's not so easy to slot the photo in. I did also add a border of gold machine stitching around the photo, which kind of just echoes the stitching that's around the top of each of the ornaments. Now you'll see those lovely poinsettias. That was from one of the pattern papers from Sugar Plum Wishes as well, and I just fussy cut them and then placed them around the wreath. I placed them tone on tone, so the pink poinsettias around the pink ornament and the red by the red, etc., to add some lovely extra detail but not to be too overwhelming for the eye. I've also got some of these little sweet holly leaves and berries. Again, I'd fussy cut these from one of the pattern papers, and I'm just dotting a few of those around on some of the ornaments, again just for a little bit of extra detail. I'll come back later and glue all of those down, but first I want to add a piece of twine all the way through those ornaments. I thought, because they've got the little hook on the top of each of the ornaments, how perfect would it be if there was actually some string going through each of them. So I've got this lovely twine that's got a gold string going all the way through it. So I thought that would be the perfect addition and tie in quite nicely with the gold thread that I've used for the hand embroidery and the machine stitching, and just add extra interest and complement those colors really nicely. So I slowly weave it through and do a few loops and twirls with the twine. In retrospect, it would have more than likely been a little bit easier to thread this twine through before I'd stuck the wreath down, and then I could have just tweaked the positioning a little bit once it was all stuck down. It is quite awkward to get that needle through some of the places, and like I mentioned before, the little hook on the top of each ornament is quite delicate, so there were a few times where I nearly ripped the top of them off, but thankfully it all stayed in one piece, and I'm just kind of seeing where the thread works best. Over here I'm just tucking it in underneath that ornament because I want the twine to look like one continuous piece, so I only really want to have one end visible. So I'm working up this side now, just finding the perfect place for each of those little loops. I don't want to repeat the same shape too many times, so I like the loops to maybe go in different directions or to weave from a slightly different side of the wreath so that it looks kind of natural rather than perfectly placed. Now I'm going to stick all the poinsettias in place. I'm using some clear silicone glue, and that just adds some lovely dimension. It works so nicely for something where you want to kind of have a bit of a 3D effect. So I've put some blobs on the back of each of those flowers, and then where the poinsettia is tucked behind the ornament, that's kind of stuck flush down on the background, but then as it goes out towards the tips of the petals and leaves, that's slightly more raised. So I like using silicone glue for these kinds of objects, like flowers for example. Foam tape doesn't give that same dimension, so that's why I like using silicone glue in these instances. So I'm just going around and making sure everything's stuck down, and I've got a little gold star sticker. I felt like something was missing, so that's going on the top of the Christmas tree on the photo. And you'll see I do have a title on there. I had about 1 million different titles with various different fonts, so I've not shown you that one go down because I will change it. And I added some lovely stickles, glitter glue to some of the flowers, the center of the poinsettias, just to add a bit of sparkle. I'm now using some pops of color, pink and red, just to highlight those berries, just all the little extra details. And I'm adding lots of little gold stars, well, not lots, but a few around the outside and a few around the inside of the wreath as well, just to kind of echo that star on top of the Christmas tree. Now it's time to get that title right. I really did try so many different options, and just none of the text pieces were fitting properly, so I did eventually just leave it and come back to it right at the end. And then I found this little word piece that says joy, and that worked really nicely along with some white stickers that say Christmas, and I think the white was just a little bit more subtle and worked much better with the bright coloured background. And that is my layout just about done. I'm going to show you some close-ups of all that lovely sparkle and all those details. Thank you so very much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you've enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you would like to. I will link all the supplies I've used in the description box below, as well as Paige Evans' Happy Scrappy Facebook group, where you will be able to download this lovely cut file for free. You can also find me over on Instagram at handmadehappy by Monique. If you have any questions or any comments, please do leave me a message. I would love to hear from you. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!